الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على الذي أرسله الله بالنور محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. أما بعد، وقد قال الله تعالى في سورة البقرة: الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم، إلى آخر الآيات. صدق الله العليم. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من قرأ آية الكرسي دبرها كل صلاة، إلى آخر الحديث، أو كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقال أيضا: من قرأ قل هو الله أحد 10 مرات بنى الله بيتا في الجنة، أو كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا أرحم الراحمين. We begin by mentioning the most beautiful of names, none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high and see. And we send abundant blessings and salutations upon the cream of creation, the rising star of Madinatul Munawwara, none other than Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask and we beg and we beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high and see, that He make it easy for us and not to make it difficult. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high and see, that He grant us all knowledge and grant us all understanding. Ameen thumma ameen. My dear esteemed and revered and beautiful gathering, our Master, our Lord, our Nourisher, our sole provider, He has mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, the chapter concerning the cave. And this is a surah that our Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to recite specifically on a Friday. And this is a surah that whereby our Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the one who recites it specifically on a Friday, he will be protected from whatever trials and tribulation from one Friday to the next. And in the ending of this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, He says, so whosoever hopes to have a good meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High Yasi, فَلْيَعْمَلْ, and let him do عَمَلًا صَالِحًا, righteous actions, good actions, good deeds, virtuous deeds. So whosoever wants to have a good meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what should he do? What he should ought to strive to do good actions. And good actions is of many forms. And from amongst them is the recitation of Al-Quran al-Karim. There is no beautiful and more virtuous action than the recital, than the reading and the recitation of Al-Quran al-Karim, the last and final testament of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a verse in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 255. Remember it? Verse number 255. Which surah? Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter concerning the cow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and He says, Allah la ilaha illahu al-hayy al-qayyum. And everyone knows this verse. This is the verse of the throne, which is known as Ayatul Kursi, verse number 255. And this verse of the throne is to be known as the greatest verse in the entire Quran. Ayatul Kursi is known as the greatest and the most superb verse in the entire Quran. And this verse was revealed during the night. And the Prophet ﷺ called Zayd, who was one of the scribes who will write the verses, who will write the Quran when it was revealed upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls that and informed him to write Ayatul Kursi. And this verse was revealed during the night time. And Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him. Who was Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah? Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah was one of the sons of Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala, may Allah be pleased with him. Meaning what? He was also one of the brothers of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, may Allah be pleased with both of them. So Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, he mentioned and he says that لَمَّا نَزَلَتْ آيَةُ الْكُرْسِي, that when Ayatul Kursi, when the verse of the throne was revealed, that إِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ يَضْرِبُ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, that indeed the devils and the evil jinnah, they will be hitting amongst themselves. Meaning when they were fleeing, when they were running, that indeed they would bounce themselves together. So فَأَنَّ عَتُوا إِلَى إِبْلِيسِ. So these devil jinn went to Iblis, went to Satan, went to the devil and informed them of what is going on. That indeed they were being confused and they were bouncing themselves, they were hitting themselves. So Iblis Amara, he commanded them that go and search, yubhadu, go and search what is the reason for you all to become so heedless, that you man become so unconscious that you are bouncing each other. فَأَتُوا إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ. So they went to Medina to Munawwara. فَقَدْ, indeed it was mentioned to them, لَمَّا نَزَلَتْ آيَةُ الْكُرْسِي, for indeed Ayatul Kursi was revealed. So when Ayatul Kursi was revealed, it made them become so dumbfounded that they would bounce themselves, that they would hit themselves, that indeed it went to them so much so that they want to complain about what was happening to the devil, Iblis. And Iblis sent them to Medina, sent them in search for what is happening, what is the outcome, what was the reason for them bouncing each other. And it was informed to them that indeed Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne, was revealed. And the hadith continues and says that indeed, most certainly, that the one who recites Ayatul Kursi, the one who recites the verse of the throne, he will be protected. And Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah, he continues and says that when the verse of the throne was revealed, for indeed kharra sanam, that all the idols prostrated, but kharra, even all of the throne of all of the kings during that time, all of the thrones from the head fell off and broke when Ayatul Kursi was revealed. This was how powerful it was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne, upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in a beautiful hadith, and this hadith is muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Man qara'a Ayatul Kursi dubara kulli salatin, whosoever recites it after every prayer, after every salah, for indeed dukhul al-jannah, he will enter paradise. And nothing lam yamna'hu, nothing will prevent him from entering paradise illa al-maut, except death. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, what? The one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every salah, after every compulsory prayer, every prescribed prayer, the one who recites it after, for indeed it will be his admittance into paradise, and nothing will prevent him from entering into paradise except death. And then the Prophet ﷺ continues in the hadith, and he says, Mana akhada mudji'uhu, the one who takes it before going to his bed, meaning the one who recites it before going to his bed. Amana Allahu, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will safeguard him. وَفِي جَارِهِ, and his neighbors, وَجَارِهِ jar, and also his neighbors' neighbors, وَأَبْيَادَ حَوْلَهُ, and also all of the houses surrounding him. The Prophet ﷺ said, what? The one who recites Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne, whosoever recites it after every salah, for indeed this will be his admittance into paradise. And nothing will prevent him from entering paradise except that. And the one who recites it before going to his bed, meaning before going to sleep at night, the one who recites it, for indeed he will be in the protection, he will be in the safety of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only he will be in the safety of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also his neighbors, and also his neighbors' neighbors, and also the houses around them. How magnificent is the throne, this verse of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How great is this verse of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, in a marfu hadith, a hadith which is reaching to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says that, قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أوحى الله موسى عليه السلام, that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Moses, that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon Prophet Musa alayhi salam, إني أعطيته فوق ما أعطي شاكري, that indeed I will give the one a greater reward, much more superior, much more high than those who are thankful, and the one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said what? That Allah revealed to Prophet Musa as well, that indeed the one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer, after every compulsory prayer, after every mandatory prayer, for indeed his reward will be much more greater than those who are thankful. Because the reward for a thankful person is superior. But the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah is saying to Musa that indeed Allah will give them even much more greater reward. And then the Prophet continues and he says that even much same reward as the prophets, for the one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every salah. وَأَعْمَالَ الصِّدِّيقِينَ, and even the action of the truthful people, that will also be your reward. The Prophet said what? That Allah revealed to Musa alayhi salam, that Prophet Moses, the one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer, he will give them a higher reward than those who are thankful. He will give them the reward of the prophets. He will give them the reward of the actions of the truthful people. And then Musa alayhi salam, Ya Rabbi, O my Lord, Man sami'a li hada wa lam yudawamu alayh. Who is the one who will hear such a thing and not be regular upon it? فَقَالَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most honored and the most majestic, as he said, Ya Musa, O Musa, O Moses, فَإِنِّي إِنِّي أُعْطِيهُ, indeed I will give it, لِلنَّبِيِّ, to one of my prophets, وَصِدِّيقَ, to one of my truthful people. For indeed these are the people who will recite this regularly. Look at this. The Prophet ﷺ said what? That Allah revealed upon Prophet Musa, Prophet Moses, that he will give the one a high reward, and the one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every salah. And then Musa ﷺ said, who is the one who will hear such a thing and not be regular upon it? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa ﷺ, that indeed I will only give it to one of my prophets. I will only give it to my prophets. I will only give it to my worshippers. I will only give it to those who are truthful. So the question is, are we from amongst the truthful ones? Are we from amongst the worshippers? The Prophet said Allah won't give it to anyone else. And today we see this. Today we see these type of things in our Muslim communities today. That we run away from reciting Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer. The Prophet ﷺ is encouraging you and I to recite Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer, after every compulsory prayer. And this is why even as an Abdurrahman ibn Auf, may Allah be pleased with him, as an Abdurrahman ibn Auf, that indeed every single time you enter his house, he will recite Ayatul Kursi in the four corners of his house. And when it was asked about this, the reason for reciting Ayatul Kursi in the four corners of his house, every time he entered into it, he would say this was to dispel whatever evil is lurking in the room. This is to dispel whatever evil is lurking in the room. You and I complain about how we can't sleep at night. You and I complain about the darkness that is dwelling in our house, that indeed there are arguments, there are troubles affecting our homes. But how much of us, when we enter our house, we recite Ayatul Kursi? Yeah? How many of us will do this and recite it in the four corners of our homes? But even the question is that how many of us have memorized Ayatul Kursi? How many of us have learned Ayatul Kursi? But indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayyul qayyum, that indeed Allah, there is no God but Him. He is all living and He is all eternal. The word hayyul qayyum, even by this meaning, has many, many profound strength and powers. Even when Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Jesus, when he wanted to bring the dead to life, he would say before, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, Al-Hayyul Qayyum, O everlasting one, O eternal one, O living one, for rains. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the ability to bring the dead to life by reciting Al-Hayyul Qayyum. And even when Musa alayhi salam was asked by his people from the tribe of Israel that what is the greatest, what is Ismu Adam, the greatest of all names, Musa alayhi salam replied to them and said that Al-Hayyul Qayyum, that indeed the most greatest of names is Al-Hayyul Qayyum, the all living and the all eternal. That even that some of the companions, we mentioned that indeed that when the Prophet ﷺ was overburdened with something, he would also recite, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, O living one, O eternal. This is the majestic power, this is the greatness of the throne, the verse of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what you and I as a Muslim community has to strive and we encourage others in reciting Ayatul Kursi after every prescribed prayer. Likewise, the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned that the one who recites Surah Al-Ikhlas as well, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, that one who recites it 10 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build for him a castle in paradise. The one who recites Surah Al-Ikhlas 10 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is built for him a castle in paradise. But we are not striving for castles and buildings and towers in paradise. We are striving for castles in this worldly realm. We want to build the bricks of this worldly realm. We don't want to invest in the bricks of the hereafter. We don't want to invest in the bricks of the hereafter. We will save all our money, work very hard for $5 a brick in this worldly realm. But to recite Surah Al-Ikhlas, to recite Surah Al-Ayat, the Ayatul Kursi verse of the throne, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. This is the Muslim community today. And then there's also people who discourage others in reciting Ayatul Kursi after the prescribed. Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a beautiful hadith that Shaka Rajulan ila Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that a man complained to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam al-faqr wa dhiqul ma'ashiyah, about his poverty and his restriction in his livelihood. A man came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and complained to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about his poverty and his restriction in his livelihood. Look at the things he's complaining about. You and I will complain about it. Sometimes you don't have money, you don't have wealth, and you go to complain to someone, you'll come to the imam, you'll come say, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. This man also did the same thing like you and I do. So he went to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, I thought indeed I am complaining that I don't have money, I don't have wealth. My livelihood is restricted. فقال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said to him, he says that, إذا دخلت بيتك, that indeed when you enter your house, فسلم تكن فيه أحد, that give salam even if someone is there or even if someone is not there. فقل قل هو الله أحد مرة واحدة, and recite Surah Al-Ikhlas once. So the man, when he take this advice, he went home and he did it. فعادر الله عليه, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him vast sustenance, so much so حتى أفاض جيرانه, that even so much so that he could have so much of wealth and so much of money that he ended up sharing it with his neighbors. The Prophet ﷺ gave this man advice, and he was complaining about what? Poverty. His restriction in his livelihood. The Prophet ﷺ told him what? When you enter your house, give salam. Say assalamu alaikum, even if someone is there or even if someone is not there. Give salam. Then the Prophet ﷺ told him what? That indeed recite Qul huwallahu ahad, Surah Al-Ikhlas once. And the man done this action. He did this action. And then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon so much of sustenance that even self, with that sustenance that Allah bestowed upon him, he started to give it away even to his neighbors. This is the benefits. This is the virtue of Surah Al-Ikhlas. This is the virtue of the benefit of giving salam. When you enter your homes, how much of us give salam? If someone is there or even someone is not there. How many of us will recite قُلْ وَاللَّهُ أَحَدٌ when you enter our homes? And in another variation, the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, when you enter your house, give salam, recite قُلْ وَاللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, and recite salawat upon me, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. But these are the actions the Muslim community, we are not indulging. These simple actions can gain so much of reward for your household and for you. And when those rewards start to impact upon you and upon your household, then you'll have so much of an abundance that you'll start to share it with your neighbors as well. But we restrict ourselves. We restrict our families for not coming out to learn about these virtues and these scientific effects that we can have upon man from the Holy Quran. And we can only blame ourselves. We can't blame no one else. If we are poverty stricken and we don't want to learn Quran, something is wrong with us. Because the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, he said that indeed there were two young fellas. One of them used to be working and the other used to be learning sacred knowledge with the Prophet ﷺ in his Masjid al-Nabawi. And this hadith is recorded in Jami al-Tirmidhi. There were two brothers. One of them was working and the other one was learning sacred knowledge, learning Quran with the Prophet ﷺ. And then one of the brothers said to the other, that indeed time for you to leave this knowledge, time to leave Quran and come and start to work for your own self. Because remember, when one of the brothers is working, he will take care of the family. This is natural. And sometimes that become a burden upon a person who is taking care of a family. So then when the Prophet ﷺ heard this, he says, فَإِنَّ indeed, surely, most certainly, because of your brother learning sacred knowledge, because of your brother learning Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you sustenance. Because of your brother who is learning sacred knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you sustenance. Look at this. For the one who learns what? Quran. The one who learns sacred knowledge. This is how valuable it is. So sometimes we think to ourselves, hey, what purpose and benefit it have coming to our class, coming to the masjid? You don't know, because of your effects, because of you stepping foot into the masjid, your livelihood is being increased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your family is being protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of what you are doing. My dear esteemed and beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, we live in a time when the crime is rampant. We live in a time when sickness is rampant, dengue is rampant now. But the Prophet ﷺ taught us these verses. The Prophet ﷺ showed us the effects of Ayatul Kursi. He showed us the effects of Surah Al-Ikhlas. Likewise, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he said that the one who ever recites Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times, the one who recites it 3 times, it is as though you have recited the entire Quran. And some of the ulama, the pious predecessors, they would specifically say on a Jum'ah, it is recommended that a person recite Ayatul Kursi 7 times, Surah Al-Ikhlas 7 times, Surah Al-Falaq 7 times, and Surah Al-Nas 7 times. Specifically on Jum'ah after Jum'ah. Why? This will increase us in our livelihood. It will increase us in the benefits. It will increase us in the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will increase us in us for understanding the virtues of these surahs. Prophet ﷺ taught us as well that indeed whosoever recites Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas before he goes to bed and blow it in the palm of his hands and wipe it how much he can wipe whilst he is on the bed, but indeed he will be protected from the devils. You will be protected from the devils. But we forgot this. Some of us will also sleep not in a state of ablution. This is our Muslim Ummah today. We become so heedless. We become so aware that whereby the things that which can help us and aid us as Muslims, we have forgotten it. And we become so debatable in things and arguments which will destroy us. Arguments that which will destroy us. But if you implement these basic things, you recite Ayatul Kursi after every prayer. You recite Surah Al-Ikhlas when you enter in your house. You recite it 3 times every day. But when we just recite Surah Al-Ikhlas twice, we recite Ayatul Kursi, some of us we say that's too much. We run away. My dear esteemed brothers and sisters in Islam, one day the Prophet ﷺ was walking and he overheard a man saying, قُلْ اللَّهُ وَحَدْ اللَّهُ صَمَدْ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. He just overheard a person, a man reciting this surah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَجَبَتْ. It is mandatory. So when one of the companions said this, he said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, ma wajabat. What is mandatory? What is compulsory? فقال, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Jannah, paradise, heaven. So what we learn from this hadith, we learn that even by reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, by just reciting it once, Jannah becomes mandatory for us. Jannah becomes essential for us. My dear esteemed brothers and sisters in Islam, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inculcate these verses to be recited on a regular. For indeed, remember, the one who will persist in it is the truthful people, the worshippers and the prophets. So who are you from? The truthful ones, the worshippers, or the prophets? The one who recites these verses regularly. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the truthful ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inculcate in us that we can just sit and relate and recite Ayatul Kursi after every salah, and recite Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times after every salah, and we should increase specifically on the Jummah, reciting these surahs and verses 7 times each. This is the way we will increase our beloved, our love and our compassion amongst the Muslim Ummah today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to accept this and understand this. Ameen. Ameen.